Dr. Angela L. Harris, and I'm the visionary and founder of No Bibs, Burps, Bottles, the #1 online platform, brand, and community that empowers, inspires, highlights, and celebrate child-free African-American women to live their best child-free life. I want to thank you in advance if you're watching us on YouTube or if you're listening to us on Spotify. Please, please, please make sure that you like, you subscribe, you give us a 5-star rating, because that's how our information is pushed out to the masses. So I'm so excited to jump right into this conversation. We have another special guest here on No Bibs, Burps, Bottles, Lisa. And I always like my guests to introduce themselves, share a little bit more about themselves. So Lisa, welcome, welcome, welcome to No Bibs, Burps, Bottles. I'd love for you to share with our audience your name, where you're located, your career, and an interesting fact that maybe a lot of people don't know about you.
Of course. My name is Lisa. I go by Shogun Steel on Instagram. I am 31 years old. I'll be 32 next July. I work in healthcare as a radiology receptionist. I've been doing that for about 8 years now. One thing that I guess a lot don't know about me is that I am a bodybuilder. I have been into the fitness community for most of my life, but I have been bodybuilding for the last 5 to 6 years.
And that's how not only connection of child free, but watching you and your transformations as you get prepared for shows. Your Instagram page is so inspiring, and I'm nowhere near a bodybuilder, but what I take from you and your page is just overall wellness, health, and strength training. As a woman who's mature in age, I know the importance of lifting weights and being able to kind of keep that muscle mass. So, can you tell us a little bit about how you got into bodybuilding?
So it's a little bit of a, I guess, sad story, I guess I would say. I dated someone for almost 4 years, broke up with him back in September of 2017. I did not want to put myself in a position where I would continue letting the breakup envelop me in darkness, negativity, all things that should not be in one's life. Instead of going down the road where I'd be involved in drugs, drinking, whatever else is out there, I chose to apply that energy to the gym. And of course, it's basically worded as heartbreak got me into bodybuilding. But the most that I can say is that over time, I learned to stray away from the mindset of the breakup being the staple of my bodybuilding, to me learning to love myself, me, opening up to different people, talking about my experiences, going to different gyms, trying out different equipment. And I just learned to love myself a lot more than what I was, well, doing, I guess I would say. And it basically went from bodybuilding, I guess, being the cause of I wouldn't say a cause, I would say the result of a breakup,
Mhm.
to love, personal growth, just being less shy and putting myself more out there. And I did my first 2 competitions, and now I am on my way to my third next year.
Awesome. Awesome. Can you recall the earliest recollections of when you thought about either being a mom or not being a mom?
15 years old is when I fully knew that I did not want children. Of course, me being a kid, I didn't like other kids. So I'm thinking to myself, obviously, if I grow up, it's basically going to be the same thing. So it's just experiences of being around other children who are misbehaving, and then also watching parents not parent their children. It was kind of a turn off for me, I guess I would say. It didn't really put it into my brain, I guess I would say, the interest of wanting to take care of another human being. I knew from 15 years old that I was not going to be a mom.
Wow, wow. So, Lisa, how is your child-free life right now? How would you describe it? What's going on that makes it good, bad, or indifferent?
My child-free life right now is very content. Um, no big events happening or anything, but I can fully say that I am very content with where I'm at. And like for me, it's like let's first start off with my initial surgery. My initial surgery was at 25 years old. I had a bilateral salpingectomy done. For those who do not know what that is, it's basically the surgical removal of one's fallopian tubes. So I had that done. Of course, fast forwarding a little bit after that to about in the last 2 or so years, I was experiencing a lot of pain in the pelvic region. And I'm thinking to myself, well, it's obviously got to be because of the initial surgery I had. So, of course, I spoke with my doctor. She was just like, hey, you can get a partial or a total hysterectomy since you already have your fallopian tubes removed. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, great. So I looked more into it.
Hmm.
We go forward to June of this year. I had a partial hysterectomy because Lisa did not fancy the idea of going into menopause at 30 something years old. So I'm like, oh, let's not do that. So, of course, I have my 6 week follow up with my doctor. And he actually mentioned to me that there were actually 3 golf ball sized masses growing within my uterus. And I probably feel like the reason why they kind of overlooked it, despite the previous ultrasounds that I might have had, is of course because I've had ruptured ovarian cysts before. So they probably entangled that with the cysts that I might have had prior. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, so you're telling me that if I did not have this hysterectomy done, those foreign objects would have basically been in my uterus and I would not have known about it.
Hmm.
It's a scary thought.
Yeah.
So I guess I can say my decision of choosing to be child free at such a young age kind of, I guess, in a way, saved my life because Lord knows whether or not those would have grown to an exponentially large size, killing me in the process, or they would have affected my body in some way. I mean, Lord knows I probably wouldn't even be here talking to you right now, doctor.
Hmm.
So when I say I'm fairly content in my lifestyle of being child free, my whole decision of being child free, I am very content.
Hmm. Hmm. And Lisa, thank you so much for sharing that because I know a lot of times it could be challenging for some, not all, to kind of share those type of experiences. But I do have a follow-up question. So I know sometimes when there are trolls trolling, they may say, well, maybe deep down inside you really wanted kids, but because you had all these medical issues, you kind of now that's why you're child free. And so, how would you respond to maybe a troll or someone making that type of assumption?
Mm. For one, I of course would mention that I have basically been child free since 15, so that definitely would not have changed. And second, even if I were not to have any medical conditions, my decision to be child free would remain the same.
Yep. And a lot of times people want to make it seem like there are all these other reasons besides the autonomy of choice that we're child free. Is
Mhm.
like, oh, you didn't find the right partner, and oh, you have these medical issues, and oh, this. And it's like, no, people can just make the choice, just like people make the choice to have kids. There are people who
Correct.
made the choice to not have kids. So, well, thank you again for sharing that. So let's talk a little bit about dating and what dating looks like or feel like for you as a child-free woman.
Now, pull up your chair, honey, because this is a very dicey subject. As a bodybuilder, I already find it hard to date just because of the fact that I am always in the mindset of being in prep. I'm always in the mindset of going to the gym, meal prep, water intake, everything that envelops being a bodybuilder. That's my mindset already. But that's, of course, put that on the back burner. And on top of that, I'm a child-free woman. It's hard over 30 years old, like being into my 30s. I find it hard to find any single man who does not have a child or a stepchild. Um, I just find it hard in general because men usually either want to be dads or they already are dads. And of course, the idea of dating a single dad for me, it's kind of cringy because my biggest rule for me is that no ex-girlfriends, no fiancés, no exes in any way, shape, or form. And obviously, if you as a man have a child, you obviously still have that tie to the woman you had said child with. And for me, it just doesn't sit well with me. Me being a child-free woman, not having kids, not wanting any kids, all of a sudden I'm dating someone with children. And for me, that really contradicts the child-free decision that I made all those years ago. So in terms of my dating life right now, I do not have one just because of the fact that so many men either have kids or they want kids. Even like to give a primary example, I
Mhm.
was on Tinder previously, kind of like a little bit of a social experiment for me. Put what I want in my bio just so this way men do not ask me mid conversation as to what I want, what I'm looking for, X, Y, and Z. Now, obviously, in bold letters on my biography, I put child free, not trying to be anyone's mother, not trying to take care of anyone's kids. If you have kids, this is a no kid, no dating zone. I am child free. I made sure to put those all in bold letters. But do these single dads take time to read a biography instead of looking at a pretty face on a biography on a profile on Tinder? Nope. So recently, I actually deleted Tinder because it was literally sitting in cyberspace collecting dust. So I re downloaded the app, deleted my Tinder, and then deleted the app again because I saw no need for it. I'm just basically in the mindset where I don't feel like my type of dream man exists. And I've come to terms with it just because of the fact that I need to continue to work on my self growth. I need to continue working on maturing my mindset. I am not getting any younger, I'm getting older. So obviously, I need to push forward and continue to love myself, love others around me. Yes, dating can come at any time, but at the same time, it's like I want someone with the exact same mindset because if a man and a woman, like me dating someone, are
Mhm.
not on the same page, we're going to clash all the time. And as someone who has been in previous relationships where I have clashed with a man that I'm dating, I would rather avoid going down that route again. So to put it as a summary, I have no dating life.
But
Lisa
you
is
know what?
full like a
But the thing is, you dropped so many jewels, and I think what the takeaway is, at least for me, and I hope for others, is that one, it's hard to date when you're still in this transformative stage of loving thyself, knowing thyself, expanding thyself, right? I think a lot of times we can want something so bad to the detriment of ourselves when we're actually not even ready. So I love the fact that you're like, yes, do you want to date? Do you have a criteria or deal breakers for dating? Of course, we all do. But what I'm hearing you say is that dating will come. And until then, I'm focused on me. And there's nothing wrong with
that.
that. And you are right. People do not read dating profiles because I did the same. And you can put everything in there. And you're
Oh,
like, how are you asking me something that's in my bio? Did you read it? Did you even read
oh,
it? In your bodybuilding community, is it fair to say that most women are child free or don't have kids? And I'm making an assumption on what the body does or what the body
Mhm.
needs in order to be a bodybuilder. And some men may steer away from that. They're like, you're child free and you're a bodybuilder. Again, some people making assumptions. But is that true of the bodybuilding experiences for females, that many are just not having children?
From what I have seen, yes. I know for me, I know the cases for me, like one of the reasons I got into bodybuilding is because of the fact that I myself don't want any children, because of course bodybuilding is very expensive. Like you have to think about how much money you're spending on hotel, your show suit, tan, hair, everything. So of course to have a child while doing all of that would drain someone's bank account quickly. And a lot of my friends who I am friends with, actually, from what I have seen so far, I don't know if they're on the fence or anything about it. From what I've seen so far, a lot of them are child free, just because of the fact that the lifestyle of bodybuilding, it's very expensive. So, just like me, there are quite a few people out there who just can't entertain the idea of children, or can't entertain the idea of children right now. Props to anyone who does want to become a parent, all power to you. But I know for me and some of the people that I know, it would just be way too much, both
Mm-hmm.
mentally, physically. And from what I have seen, a lot of bodybuilders who become moms, the body, like once it goes through a drastic change such as pregnancy, sometimes it doesn't snap back. And if it does happen to get back to the previous shape that you were at, it takes a lot of work, a lot of work, a lot of hours in the gym, a lot of meal prep. And then on top of that, it's like when you have a child, you can't go to the gym for as long as you want. You can't spend the amount of money that you would like on a lot of the things that you would like to have. It strains you. From what I've seen, it's done that to a lot of people. And of course, a lot of the folks that I used to go to the gym with, I don't go to the gym anymore because, they're too busy being a parent. So that alone, it kind of makes me cringe and
Got it.
shudder.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Because again, I have a classmate who is a bodybuilder, and she doesn't have kids of her own, but she shares kids with her partner. And I know she's always in the gym. And I'm thinking, wow, to work
Mhm.
so hard to have that type of physique, I would imagine you really have to be intentional on, I put in years, because your body is your bread and butter, right? You're competing. And so I would imagine you have to be intentional on, if I get pregnant, if I want to be a mom, my body is going to change and what needs to happen thereafter. So thank you for enlightening me. But in
Mhm.
regards, going back to dating, when the dating doors open for you at some point, if they open for you, what are the things that you're looking for? I mean, like, is it a deal breaker, no kids, or can they be adult kids? Can they be toddlers? What's your boundaries for yourself?
Boundaries for me is just like a a man who bodybuilds would be ideal, but it's not going to be the end of the world if he doesn't, bodybuild. I mean, even if he's open to learning, like going to the gym and lifting with me, hey, that's a good green flag. Great. I think biggest red flags for me, single dads. I cannot do single dads. You, as a man, if you are wanting to date Lisa Robinson, you cannot have children in any shape or form, whether it be children by blood, children you babysit, children that you are a stepdad to. Absolutely, positively, no way, Jose, because usually where there is a child involved, there's usually an ex girlfriend, ex fiance, ex someone of some type. And biggest thing for me, no exes, because of course, you know that there is the high percentage that the feelings of old ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend will most likely still be there. And I don't want to be caught up in a situation where I fall in love with someone who is still in love with their ex.
Mm,
Been there, done that, will choose to evade that path as much as possible. So if a man has a child or even wants a child, we simply cannot work.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're staying true to yourself, 10 toes down. You heard it first here. So let's kind of transition to your family. So you knew at 15 that you did not want children, and you know in your 30s that you still don't want children, don't want to date anyone with children. So how did your family receive that information?
Oh Lord Jesus. So the way that that started out was that the decision at 15 years old, it was kind of a silent one, a little secret that I kept to myself, and I kind of went on with my life or whatever. Of course, started seeing doctors for sterilization process in my 20s, kind of kept that to myself as well. Um, when I was dating my ex before I broke up with him in 2017 of September, I knew he wanted children, but at the same time, it's just like with the way that our relationship was going, it just wasn't it for me. So obviously, I protected myself before breaking up with him. Thank you, Jesus. Um, of course, bringing the attention of said subject to my dad first and foremost. He was not pleased. He was not having it. And when he realized that he was not able to change his mind, he fed me the all famous line, talk to your mother. That's basically what he told me. So obviously, I made sure to do the whole talk to your mother shindig in public where there were people, because you know Caribbean parents, they get mad. They get mad.
They'll tell you
So
how they
obviously,
feel.
so obviously for me, I chose to break the news to my mom in public in the mall. I basically told her, I'm just like, hey, I'm looking into such and such, and I'm very serious about it, and I'm not changing my mind. And she looked at me, then looked down at the ground. She was just like, well, I can't stop you, nor can I change your mind. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, that went a lot better than expected. So obviously, the first person that I actually told before I told my mom and dad was my sister. So she didn't take it very well because obviously she was in the process around that time of becoming a mom. So she obviously felt some type of way. So obviously, once all was said and done, I went and had my surgery, the first one. My dad, my mom, they all wished me well. My sister wished me well as well. However, when I broke the news of the hysterectomy at first to my parents, my dad took it harder than my mom did. But I basically told him it was the doctor, obviously, who had suggested it to me because I'm going through all this pain, X, Y, and Z. And obviously, he calmed down. So once all was said and done, I was still able to get both of those done. And I mean, even if it came down to it, I don't think I would be the person that I currently am if I were to fully listen to my parents. I'm not saying that one should not honor their father and their mother, and I'm not saying that one should disrespect their parents. But at the same time, if you feel something within you is telling you that you should do something that you have thought about, worked around, done everything in your power just to kind of rationalize where it just feels so right to you, do not let your parents steer you away from wanting to do that thing, especially if it can bring you to a point in life where you're just content with yourself. Like for me, for example, being content in my child-free ways. I I'm definitely thankful that I am where I am and that I stood up for myself, because I feel like if I didn't stand up for myself, I wouldn't have had any of those surgeries done. I wouldn't be in the child free mindset that I'm in. I wouldn't be very concrete in where I am in life and my lifestyle right now.
it's not easy sharing with your loved ones that you've made a choice that's best for you when they see it as an extension of them, right? A granddaughter or a grandson is an extension of your parents. And sometimes parents are just as excited about grandchildren than the children they gave birth to. So it is a period of mourning for some parents, and some parents will keep that pressure hard until people decide to break and they have kids. Even though your dad and mom maybe had some disappointment at some point, did you feel pressure? Was it constant pressure of when you're going to get pregnant or when you're going to give us grandkids, or they just were disappointed at the conclusion you came to for yourself?
At first, they were disappointed at the conclusion I came to for myself. But even before that, I remember, this is when I used to live in a different position in Calgary. So, where I'm from, I forgot to mention this in the first place. Apologies. I'm from a place called Calgary, Alberta, in Canada. I have been a Calgarian for basically most of my life. Moved to Airdrie. It's like half an hour outside of Calgary, and then came back to Calgary just this year. I remember living with my mom around the time in the different house than we have now. And she started off one of those conversations with, well, when you have kids, dot, dot, dot. I automatically stopped her. I'm like, I'm not having kids. I will never have children. And till this day, that's still my mindset. A lot of people are like, oh, but you can adopt. Oh, but you can be a stepmom. I'm like, no, the heck I can't. Absolutely not. Lisa does not carry stepmother energy. I carry auntie energy.
Yes, yes. And it's
Yeah.
like, no, I'm it's solid. It's a period at the end of no. That's my
Yep.
decision, and you're standing by it. But you also reference that your parents are from the Caribbean. And a lot of times
Yep.
culturally there are expectations. Culturally, and there are large families, and family is
Absolutely.
the community. So not only parents, but was there this your extended family, like what were thoughts with cousins and uncles and aunts that Lisa's not having any kids? Hey, I'm stopping my own YouTube video and podcast episode to let you know about NoBibsBurpsBottles.com. That's right, stop and visit our website today. We have a bunch of awesome child-free Pride merchandise made especially for you. Visit NoBibsBurpsBottles.com today. Peace.
It's just like all the questions that I had received so far. Surprisingly, I did get a little bit of a push from my extended family, but not as much as I would have thought. Like, of course, like way back when I last visited Jamaica, my cousin Sean looks at me all funny when I mention what I mentioned. He looks at me all funny. He's just like, what do you mean you're not having kids? How do you think you would feel if your mom and dad didn't make the decision to have you? And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking to myself, well, I would be automatically excluded from this exact conversation. So yeah, and like of course my auntie Josie, she came to pick us up from the movie theater. We actually had just finished watching some movie. I think it was like Ninja Assassin or something. It was a really cool action movie. And she basically asked me the same thing because cousin Sean was just like, hey, Lisa says that she's not having any kids. And then of course Auntie Josie looking at me all crazy, like, what do you mean you're not having any kids? What would have happened if your mom and dad didn't have you? And I'm thinking to myself, same thing. I wouldn't be talking to you right now. I
Your
have
cousin
gotten
spilling the beans.
and he's spilling the coffee beans, and I'm sitting there like I am right here. But it's like I have not received the pushback from my family here or my extended family in Jamaica in regards to wanting to stay child free. The bloodline dies here, blah, blah, blah. I surprisingly, knock on wood, I haven't received such pushback from them.
Good, good, good. And I hear that you're an auntie because you said that your sister was expecting. So how is auntie life for you? How do you show up as an auntie?
It's it's very rough. It was very rough at first, just because like me being child free, it's like a lot of people think that when I say I hate children, that I want to harm them in some way. I want to do to them some type of negative activity. When I say hate or highly dislike, it just basically means, oh, a child screaming 10 decibels before the regular amount. I'm just going to go that way. It's just a matter of not being around a misbehaving child that may, I guess, how do I put it? That may affect me in a way where, I guess, you know how some kids just like to come up to you and they like to pull on your shirt and they like to sometimes wipe their boogers on your clothes, which I've had done to me. It's quite nasty. That's actually one of the ways I actually got sick years ago. Some child wiped their boogers on me. It was nasty. Um, in a way, I try my best to be there for them. My sister's also a hairstylist, so trying to set up a date and time sometimes to even see the kids or spend time with the kids, it's very hard because knowing her, she's quite busy and the kids are with her most of the time. I know for me, one of the biggest New Year's resolutions for me is to try and push my sister a little bit more to have me spend time with the kids. It has gotten to a point where my sister actually has thought that I didn't want to be in the kids' life, which was the case at that point in time. However, I'm older now. I need to be in more of a mindset where I do want to be around the children. I want to play with the children, get to know the children. I don't want to be seen as mean Auntie Lisa. So I want to do my best to be open to, being around the children. Because
Mhm.
the thing is, they're, they're technically my kids in a way. I gotta love them. They're my blood. So I have to be in the mindset of loving those kids instead of feeling like I gotta be in the other corner of the room.
Yeah, yeah. And again, I really believe that the guest that's on No Bibs Burps Bottles, that there is someone listening that can say, hey, that resonates with me. Because a lot of times there are a lot of assumptions about child-free women that we hate kids and we don't like them. And that is true for some people. And I love the fact that you said, just because I say I dislike or hate doesn't mean I'm going to do harm.
Yeah, I don't know where some of these I call them ne'er do wells. I don't know where some of these ne'er do wells get the assumption that just because we're women and we have that maternal instinct that we're supposed to like children. Don't get me wrong. There are some well behaved children that I know of who are properly looked after, properly parented. It's like some of these kids, you can literally give them a book, give them a tablet, a cell phone, and they will sit there like angels compared to some of the other children who will run around like chickens with their heads cut off. It's like, where are your parents? Little miss, where are your parents? Where is your daddy? Like, where is he? And then of course, daddy's sitting there scrolling on Facebook while the young one is running around all to and fro all over yonder. It's just like, sir, please parent your child. Please do something about the fact that your child could be running into an aisle in Walmart and then running into someone, or even worse, you could be outside walking on the sidewalk. Child is running to the street and dad's with baby and stroller, and then the other one's running to the street. It's like, please parent your children. That's
Yes.
all we ask.
Yes. And I would say that most people like and love behaved children. I think even parents want their kids to behave. So, parents hear
Mhm.
us. We don't hate them. We don't want to do any harm. We just don't like when they're all over the place and they're not listening to you as parents.
Thank you. That's all.
So, but I also like the fact of the reflection that you gave regarding auntie life. I'm an auntie. I'm also a godmom. I did a piece on, being the best auntie, being the best godmom, but also recognizing your capacity, right? Some godparents or aunties, they show up on the birthdays, here's the money, and they're still a great aunt. Some aunties, they're there thick and thin, and then they're the aunties and godmoms in between. So I always say, show up, the way you can, have the capacity that you can, and do the best that you can by your nieces, nephews, and godchildren. Sometimes people accept godparenthood, but they don't understand what that parent expects from them. And even being an auntie, sometimes your siblings, they have an expectation, but they may not necessarily know your capacity. So I appreciate you kind of sharing your perspective on that.
Yes. And the thing is, it's just like I've become an introvert over time throughout my life. It's like growing up, I started as a very shy, very to myself, opened up a little bit, very bubbly and flamboyant throughout high school and school and stuff. Obviously, now I'm back to the introvertedness where I can only handle so much. My social battery drains very quickly. And along with that social battery, it's also the other type of battery where it's like you got your social battery where you're being social with your friends and your family and such. And then, of course, there's my other battery where to expel a little bit more of that energy for the kids. I gotta be around the kids. I gotta, play with the kids, talk with the kids. And kids, they love to sometimes ask the same question 10 times in a row. So it's just like there's only so much that I can handle. And like I love my niece and nephew, but at the same time, it's just like even with other kids as well, it's like they can yammer, they can touch things, even though you're telling them, hey, don't touch that, put that down. There's only so much Lisa can
Yes.
take.
Yep. Speak your truth. Speak your truth. So Lisa, let's talk a little bit about your friend group. So tell me, are you the only child-free person in your friend group? In your friend group, when people are talking about their kids or wanting to be parents, how do you navigate that? And then how do you show up in your friend group when maybe people are talking a lot about their kids? How do you say that my life is valuable, and what I have going on is valuable as well?
So I have a plethora of friend groups. Of course, there's the bodybuilders, there's the cosplayers, because of course I'm in the Comic Con community. There's my work friends at work in the clinics that I work in. And then of course there's my normal friends where they just fit where they fit. Um, I find that a lot of my child-free friends do kind of reside in the bodybuilding and mainly the cosplay group. Those are the folks that I mainly correspond with just because of the fact that they're in the same mindset when it comes to being child free. It's like, of course, bodybuilding, expensive as hell. You're paying for almost everything. So obviously you can't entertain having a child financially within that certain scenario. Same thing with cosplay. You're paying for materials, you're paying for glue, wigs, everything. And on top of that, if you're flying out of the country to a Comic Con, you're paying for a ticket, hotel room, you're paying for the Comic Con ticket. And then imagine having a child while doing all of that. That would just be too much of a headache. So there are folks out there who actually understand as to why I have chosen to be child free, or one of the reasons why I've chosen to be child free, just because of the fact that, sometimes you just randomly sit down and talk with people and you just start having all these conversations. And of course, the topic of being child free comes up, and they're thinking to themselves, oh, wow, she actually thinks just like me. So I tend to vibe more with people like that. However, like when it comes to like my parent friends, they pretty much know not to shove their kids in front of me just because it's like, I'm not saying I hate your children, but don't expect me to be all lovey dovey up in the kid's face, X, Y, and Z. And they have come to a kind of like, I would call it a respectful agreement, basically not to shove their kids in my face. It's like, yes, I'm happy you're a parent, but I am not going to show, I guess, any type of over ecstaticness that you're a parent. It just doesn't doesn't interest me in any way. And a lot of my parental friends know that. So obviously I am not one to bash a parent's, I guess, parenting style or the fact that they are parents in the first place. It's just something that just doesn't interest me. It is unfortunately one of the main reasons I've stopped talking to a lot of people, just because I can understand you're a first time, second time parent, you're happy, you're ecstatic. But I think the biggest thing for me is when being a mom, having a child just becomes your entire personality. And I don't know, it just doesn't sit well with me. It's just like you were this cool, fun loving person. And then when you had your child, you completely changed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of people that I've chatted with here and there throughout starting No Bibs Burps Bottles, how some friendships have changed, how some friendships have ended when you know, two child-free people and then one becomes a parent, and now there are other responsibilities, and the parent doesn't know how to show up in the friendship, the child-free person doesn't know how to show up in the friendship, so then people
Right.
drift apart. So again, thank you for sharing that, because again, I think it will resonate with people. And again, we all have different pockets of friends, and it sounds like your community, your people, your tribe, they know where you are, they understand, is it's this mutual respect and understanding. So again, thank you for sharing.
You're
So
welcome.
I know I talk on my platform about identities, and No Bibs Burps Bottles being a platform that empowers African American Black women to live their best child-free life. And so I'm going to say a statement to you, and I like to just get your overall thoughts on what it means to you or what comes up for you. So what does it mean to be a Black child-free woman? Those identities by itself can be separate, but when we put it all together into in the intersection of those three identities, what shows up for Lisa?
The first thing that shows up for Lisa is culture. It's like you were saying beforehand, in some cultures, there's the expectation of children. You, as a woman, you're supposed to want children. You, as a Black woman, you are supposed to want children. You're supposed to have children. You're supposed to have this many children. When people come across me and they find out that I am child free, yes, I am Black, yes, I do love my culture, but when they find out that I am not really following traditions, I'm not following culture, they look at me all funny, like, you know, as a Jamaican Canadian woman, you're supposed to want children. As a woman in general, you're supposed to want children. And I'm looking at them like, I am supposed to want what I want. Just because society says women are supposed to want this, women are supposed to want that. I mean, for me, I have been saying for years, I would like to see this unwritten book that society has so called written to say that women are supposed to want this, that, this, that. I need to see it. As a Black woman who is child free, what it means for me is that, like you said, I have to live my truth. I used to be the type that would hold back on what I want to say. I wouldn't express myself. I wouldn't be open to being honest about what I want to say, how I express myself. Once I flipped that script, people, they didn't recognize me. And
Ooh.
it's kind of a good feeling because of the fact that, of course, me growing up as the fun loving, bubbly, flamboyant person, people automatically assume that I would make a great mom. Um, Knowing myself, I most likely would not. um, it's like for me, I pretty much know I would be a terrible parent just because of the fact that, yes, financially, I'd be taking care of the child. Yes, physically, I would be taking care of the child. My mental capacity would not be able to handle it. However, my body would just be on autopilot, taking care of this child that I had brought into the world. And obviously, one should never feel like they have to love a child. That should be a natural thing. When you have to do something, it feels so robotic.
Mm,
It,
mm.
it definitely feels robotic. And I feel like my body would be on that autopilot function. I would feel like I would have to love this child just because I gave birth to it. I should want to love it. I should genuinely want to love that child. I shouldn't be in a mindset where I have to do something just because something or some person is there.
Mm-hmm.
It, yeah, I have thought about parenthood throughout my life, and I have put my shoes in the scenario where I have envisioned myself as a mom, and I don't know, it just doesn't sit well with me, and I personally feel like motherhood, it's meant for some but not meant for me, sort of thing.
Yeah. And I love when you were saying that, I got some goosebumps because when you said when you started doing what you wanted, other people saw you as unrecognizable, right? This is not the bubbly Lisa and the Lisa that we know. She would be a great mom. But when you visioned that for yourself, you said, I don't know what y'all see, but what I see and what I feel is totally different than what you guys see and want
Yep.
for me. So I was just like, yo, that was a mic drop. Like, because sometimes when we literally do what is best for us, people don't, they're like, you've changed. You're different.
Mhm.
It's like, no, I'm just
Yeah,
actually living authentically, right? And you guys need to
right?
come on board. So that was powerful. In regards
Yes.
to legacy, now a lot of times people believe legacy is you're leaving your millions. I wish I had millions, but you're leaving what you got, what you earned. You're leaving that to your kids, whether it's that last name, whether it's that money. And people would like to think that child-free people really will not have a rich or fulfilling legacy. What is your legacy, or what will be your legacy as a child-free woman?
A legacy can be anything that people remember you by. Anyone can have a last name. Anybody can have a lot of money or a little bit of money. Anybody can have money in general. For me, my legacy, the one thing that I want to make sure that I'm leaving behind so others can follow by example is my good nature. You don't come across a lot of people who have genuine, good natured souls within them. You will always come across someone who will want to exploit you in some way, who will want to use you for their personal gain. You will always come across someone who is just like, oh, I'm doing this for you, so you got to do this for me. I want to leave my good natured soul in those who choose to take it within them. It doesn't have to be a child, it can be someone I loved, someone I knew as a friend, someone who was inspired by me. I just want my legacy to inspire those to be more open to love, be more open to standing up for themselves in like the midst of people, trying to throw motherhood, fatherhood, parenthood like on them. I just want people just to be kind to each other. I'm not saying I want world peace or anything, which would be nice. I just want people to get along and just be okay with each other. Like, there is so much negativity and such going on, like day by day, all over the world. The least I can do is lead by example as best as I can. Sometimes I feel that there are days where I'm not doing enough to be a good example to somebody else, but I'm constantly working on my self growth. And one of the reasons why is so my legacy, if I do pass on, God keep me on this earth for another 90 years, maybe. I don't know. I want my good naturedness to be passed on just to a lot of people. If I leave Earth, I just want to leave knowing that I left some peace behind for somebody else to pay it forward and bring to somebody else.
Yep. And I love the fact that you said legacy can be what we make it, right? It doesn't have to be in the form of fashion of kids and money and mansions. It could be
Mhm.
just being a good person and you tapping someone else to be a good person and that person tapping someone else to be a good person. And where did it all stem from? You being a good person, right? So again, thank you for
Yeah.
that. So another question that has nothing to do with child free, but also maybe I'm curious. So not only are you child free and you are in Canada and you work in the health field and you're a bodybuilder, but you also got these dope tattoos. So tell us more about the ink and the art, and when you started getting inked up, and maybe one of your most precious pieces that you've been tatted with thus far.
Well, tattoos for me, tattoos are a sign of art for me. Your body is the canvas, now fill it up with art. Now, for me, a lot of my pieces are Japanese based, except my eyebrows. Mom basically said, Lisa, do you have a tattoo? I'm like, yeah. She's just like, well, this person from church had told me, well, did you know that Lisa got a tattoo? Mom was, of course, like, no, she doesn't have a tattoo. And this lady had the all God no nerve to say, well, maybe you didn't know your daughter as much as you did. And I'm sitting there like, man, ugh. But despite the fact that my mom was, of course, disappointed in my split decision, I went and got more.
That's what we do.
I have a stormtrooper in samurai armor. I got the PlayStation symbols. I got a random Kabuto on my hand. Everybody thinks it's Master Shredder from TMNT, so I'm like, okay, guess this is Master Shredder. I've got waves and cherry blossoms on my arm. My favorite one, right next to the ginormous Yakuza Shenron on my back, is the respectfully child free on my forearm.
Wow.
That is definitely, yes, it is definitely close to my heart because it envelops my decision that I made for myself. I made this decision without anyone's help. I made the thought process, I put the thought process into it, which is one of the reasons why I said I knew I wouldn't make a good mom. I it's basically said by quite a few people that I have spoken to that child-free people would in fact make the best parents because we've actually sat and thought the entire whole shebang out. And obviously, in the end, we're like, nope, this is not for us, gonna move on from it. But other than the rest of my anime tattoos, definitely the respectfully child free one on my forearm and the hashtag Teen No Kids on the outside of my right ankle.
That is what's up, Lisa. Thank you for all of that. And I would say again, your confidence standing 10 toes down in it, because again, not everybody is at the place we are at. And I would imagine it was a journey for all of us. But for some people, they're still in the middle and they will hear your story, they will hear my story, they will hear others from No Bibs Burps Bottles and say, wow, okay, if they can do it, I can do it too. So my last question, which is child free, you
Mm-hmm.
decided and knew at 15. If there was another 15-year-old that came to you and said, I know I want to be child free, but my mom and my dad, they're telling me, wait until I'm 30, I'll change my mind. My friends are making fun of me, but I know that I don't want kids. How would you empower that 15-year-old?
I would sit them down and say, I'm firm in what you believe. People are going to love you either way. People who look at you for the decision that you have made to be child free, they're going to look at you funny at first, but you just have to make sure that you stand your ground and not let anybody change your mind. If that person decides to change their mind in the future, all power to them. I wish them well. But for those who decide to stand firm on what they believe, I would tell them make sure you stick to your guns because I think the one thing I hate to see, other than a child free person regretting being child free, is a parent who regrets being a parent due to the pressure of others around them, parents, family members, everything. I would rather regret being a child free person than regret being a parent.
Mic drop, mic drop, mic drop. All right. So, Lisa, before we wrap
Oh
up,
yes.
thank you so much for spending time, space, and energy with me. So, please share with our audience where they can find you on your social media and anything that you want to kind of promote for yourself. This is the place where I say shine like a diamond. It's all about you. So, any great things on the horizon, and please share with our followers where they can find you.
Well, the only place that I have right now, other than my personal Facebook, is Instagram. You can find me at Shogun Steel, SHOGUNSTEEL. That is my bodybuilding page, as well as my car and Comic Con page as well. I will be participating in the Golden Prairie Cup next year in a competition. So I will definitely be in the mindset soon of getting into prep and such. So if you guys are wanting to follow me on my bodybuilding slash nerdy slash car journey, you can follow me there.
Woo-hoo-hoo. Well, you heard it first here, a woman of many talents, many strengths. And I just have been waiting for this opportunity, believe it or not. I've been following you for quite some time. So I want to thank you again, Lisa. For those who are watching, thank you for watching our YouTube channel. Please, 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 if you like what you heard, please like this video. Please leave a comment or a question for myself or for Lisa. If you're listening on our podcast on Spotify, thank you for listening. Please give us a 5-star rating if you like what you heard. And please continue to support No Bibs, Burps, Bottles. As we end every show, before we end, I want to say womanhood is not synonymous with motherhood. Peace.